All right. Good morning again, AP Gov. Purpose of today is to kind of look at the argumentative essay FRQ number 4 prompt from Canvas that was posted for today. Kind of go through and check out your approach to that. So let's see. Sorry, I'm figuring this out. Here we go. Letting some people back into the room here. Abby, Carissa. Morning, guys. We're just kind of getting started here. So let's see. Rebecca, give me a thumbs up if you can see my document. Perfect, thank you. Here's the prompt that was posted for today. Had we been in normal face-to-face, this would have been in lockdown browser, 40 minutes for you guys to complete. So the argumentative essay again is the longer of the 4 FRQs. So the prompt says the two-party system and modern campaign finance laws both influence elections greatly, and many political scientists have argued that this influence has been negative. Develop an argument that explains which feature of modern campaigns, the two-party system, or campaign finance laws have been worse for American democracy. So that's where you start to think about, okay, what's my thesis statement going to be? And in this case, it's going to be either or. You're going to be saying the two-party system is worse than for American democracy, or campaign finance laws are worse for American democracy. So that's kind of where your brain has to start thinking as you read the rest of the prompt. It says, use at least one piece of evidence from one of the following, and it gives you some choices here. And the choices are the Federalist 10, the Constitution, and then your Citizens United case. So if I'm starting to plan this in my mind, I'm already looking at where do those documents kind of line up, because they're by nature meant to support one or the other, either a two-party system or campaign finance laws. So if I'm looking at Federalist number 10, and Federalist 10 talks again about the dangers of factions. Factions could be, those groups, and in this case, we could disagree with Karen Waples and say that the parties are factions. So if you're saying that the two-party system has been worse for American democracy, you're probably going to be pulling from Federalist number 10. Constitution, when it comes to that, it's not just talking the Constitution as a whole, you're talking about specific parts of the Constitution. So you could look at a two-party system as outlined in Article 1 with the bicameral House. You could be looking at Article 2 with the executive branch. You could be looking at amendments. But the Constitution is always going to be included in there because it's by nature a pretty flexible document. And the last one is Citizens United. So obviously, if you're thinking campaign finance laws, money in politics has been worse for American democracy, then you're going to be citing Citizens United case. If you say campaign finance laws have been worse, that has to be the crux of your argument. So then the bottom part is pretty formulaic for what an argumentative essay prompt looks like. It says, respond to the prompt with a defensible claim or thesis that establishes a line of reasoning. Support your claim with at least two pieces of evidence. One must come from these 3 documents, or at least one of them has to be from those 3. And then down here, your second piece of evidence from any foundational document not used, or it may be from your knowledge of course concepts. So you could pick Fed 10 in the Constitution. You could pick Citizens United in the Constitution, or you could go and find another document or another piece of information from the course to help support your claim. Down here, use reasoning to explain why your evidence supports your claim or thesis. And respond to an opposing or alternate perspective using refutation, concession, or rebuttal. And remember, we said we don't ever want to concede our argument, that we would want to use some sort of rebuttal. If I said the two-party system has been worse, that's where that piece comes up. Some people might say campaign finance laws have been worse, but here's why they're wrong. So that's kind of, as I read through it, what your brain should be looking at. So I included here, sorry. included here a link to the College Board grading rubric for this. So here's kind of what I'm going to try to toggle back and forth between these two things. So the first point becomes that thesis. Remember, in the argumentative essay, no other points can be awarded if you're not getting the thesis point. So that first one says, in order to get the point, responds to the prompt with a defensible claim or thesis that establishes a line of reasoning. Okay, so it's not enough over here. You don't get the point if you just restate the prompt. And you don't get the point if it doesn't make a claim that responds to that prompt. So if I'm going back here and I'm looking, okay, it says two-party system in modern campaign laws, develop an argument that explains which feature of modern campaigns has been worse. So in regards to this, in order to get the thesis point, you must say something along the lines of, you know, the modern two-party system between Democrats and Republicans has been worse for American democracy because of the increased polarization. So you could talk about what we've said earlier this week, that polarization, you're polling people to opposite sides of the political spectrum. You could say something about a divided government. You could say however it's, the structure of Congress and the checks and balances between the executive and legislative branches can kind of cause gridlock in that point of divided government. There's a lot of ways to do it. So you could argue a two-party system. So the two-party system has been worse for American democracy because of blank and blank. Or you could say campaign finance laws have been worse for American democracy because of the Citizens United case and the creation of super PACs. You could talk about the dissolving of that bipartisan campaign reform act, McCain-Feingold. You could talk about bring in something from Bloomberg and the private funding of political campaigns. There's a lot of ways to do it, but in order to get that first thesis point, you have to choose a side, two-party or campaign finance, because of blank and blank. So that would be how you would get that first thesis point. And it's pretty open-ended, but without the because statement, without establishing that line of reasoning, you would not be able to get the point, and thus would not be able to get any of the following points therein. Let's see here. I'm just checking the chat to make sure no questions. Okay, let's move on. So now we're going into the evidence piece. So you've established your line of reasoning through your thesis. So you've got your thesis point. Awesome. The evidence points can go 0, 1, 2, or 3. So let's skip over the 0 points because that's just you're off topic and it's not accurate. You're just wrong. 1 point, providing one piece of evidence that is relevant to the topic. 2 points, uses one piece of relevant evidence to support the claim or thesis. And then the 3 points, using 2 pieces of specific and relevant that support that thing. And I'll tell you right now, it's hard to get all 3 points because not only is it, I think a lot of times people fell into the trap earlier writing these prompts of just saying, because of Federalist 10 or because of Citizens United, you never were able to say, what about that particular document? What about it in specifically supports your claim? So if you're talking Citizens United and campaign finance, you could talk about the influx of private money, of businesses with much, much bigger wallets can support candidates more than individuals. That you would need to collect a lot more money from individual donors than one $5 million donor. If you're talking about the two-party system, you could, say two-party systems, it doesn't support an alternative viewpoint, that if you're not a Republican or a Democrat, if you're not somewhere on that spectrum of liberal or conservative, that maybe your alternate viewpoint doesn't get heard. But again, if you're going back to your evidence supporting your claim or thesis, there needs to be information, specific information in there. Someone drawing on the page, that's awesome. There needs to be specific information in there that would support your claim. So not only are you using the evidence Fed 10, the Constitution, or Citizens United, but you're circling back as to what about it supports your evidence. So again, Fed 10, you're talking about the rising of factions, and you know, are you looking at the supporting of minority opinions, not minority groups, but maybe minority opinions? And again, that's where those third parties, those splinter parties, those ideological parties, the libertarians, the Green Party, environmentalists, whatever it might be, if you are a small fragment and a small, percentage of opinion, and you're not adopted by the two bigger parties, your opinions and your voices might not be getting heard. Um, Constitution, I think, can go both ways. Obviously, if you could talk freedom of speech with campaign finance, you can talk about system of checks and balances in the articles for two-party systems. There's a lot of information there. The reasoning point. This is the one that, like, I don't know what about it. I mean, it seems straightforward, but this one's a really challenging point to get. So the reasoning, explaining how or why the evidence supports that claim or thesis. Must explain the relationship between the evidence and the claim. To earn this point, the response must have a defensible claim earned in Part A and support that argument with at least at least 2 points in Part B. And the explanation between one piece of evidence and the claim is sufficient to earn that point. So in order to get the reasoning point, not only do you have to get the thesis one, but you have to be getting at least 2 points here in the evidence, that your evidence is specific and relevant to support your claim. And then again, explaining that reasoning. So I think the problem that most people fall in and they get into this trap is not connecting the dots and not connecting what about those documents is supporting your claim or thesis. So again, that's really relying on you being able to cite information from your documents. What line in Federalist 10? What part of the Citizens United? That's where you're digging a little deeper into those majority opinions. That you're really asking to be able to cite those specifics. So again, as we've graded previously, this was something I was not necessarily hoping that you guys would get right off the bat. But if you're getting, you're hitting it out of the park, you're on topic there. Let's see. I know you're giving us a T or I grades. Yes, yes, Rowan, I will be going through and grading these out of 6. But as everything kind of comes up, it's a little bit more time consuming, surprisingly enough, when you're at home. But I am working through those. Yes. At some point next week, I will go through each of your responses with the rubric and give you a grade out of 6 on that. Yes, I will. And then the last point here is responding to an alternative perspective. So if you are saying two-party system has been worse for American democracy, here's your time to say, some people might say campaign finance reform has been worse for American democracy, but here's why they're wrong. Campaign finance doesn't know a political party, that Republicans and Democrats both can form super PACs, that you can have, if we have already submitted the FRQ and want to change it, will you? Yes, you can go back and change whatever you want. Absolutely. If you want to attempt it again, knock yourself out. So, what I was saying is, if you say two-party system is worse, but some people might say campaign finance is worse, here's why they're wrong. Republicans and Democrats can equally raise money. There are mega donors on both sides of the political party. This doesn't necessarily favor one party or another. So that's why they're wrong. If you're saying campaign finance has been worse off, some people might argue the two-party system has been worse, but here's why they're wrong. You can say it's been a two-party system for over 100 years, and that the critical elections, the power shifts, and that we have the ability with state powers that we can have certain, powers given to the states, or that the system of checks and balances, veto power between the president and Congress, so Congress can't run unchecked. You can look at overriding a presidential veto with a supermajority. I think there's a lot to be said there that you can say, no, it's checks and balances are strong, two-party system, it doesn't matter. Political parties absorb those splinter groups in to kind of get their support. If they start gaining too much popularity, they'll kind of pull those in. But in order to get that point, you have to refute the other side. You have to say the other person might say this, but here's why they are incorrect. So unfortunately, guys, because of the argumentative essay, there's not really, right. I don't want to say right or wrong. There are wrong answers, but there are more correct answers than some. But again, it's really depending on the evidence that you select, how you support that evidence, what facts you're using to support it, and then kind of how it's structured. So this is a 6-pointer. And points being really strictly awarded based on having that thesis point. Camille, just to confirm, until we know more about the rest of the school year, all of the assignments are formative, correct? Yes. All the assignments are formative. Right now, I'm still keeping it as T, just being turned in, that you've done it. You can check that box. I know even some schools I'm hearing are even putting a pause on a lot of this new stuff. But I think we're kind of a balance here of the fact that your AP test is covering units 1, 2, and 3, that we can kind of wrap this up in a week and a half, 2 weeks, and just spend the rest of our time reviewing. But before I kind of get back into that again, with the argumentative essay, guys, the thesis statement point is the most important. I believe a two-party system has been worse for American democracy because of the power of factions outlined in Federalist 10 and the system of checks and balances outlined in Article 1 and Article 2 of the Constitution, or whatever that might be. I believe that campaign finance laws have been worse for American democracy because of the influx of private money as permitted by Citizens United, and however else you want to do. But again, that because of statement, how are you supporting that evidence with facts specific from the document? What's the reasoning behind it? And then your refutation point. Some people might say the opposite is true, but here's why they are wrong. So let me stop sharing here. So question that Emma posted in the chat about fourth quarter grades. Emma, no one knows. No one knows at this point. Okay. So I really don't know how to answer that, but Oklahoma, each state Department of Education handles all of that. So I think a lot of people are waiting to see what CDE has to say. So that's not going to be a Mr. Fleet decision. That's probably not even going to be a Douglas County decision. That'll be coming from CDE and probably the governor's office whenever that's made. Any questions about the argumentative essay or expectations or anything from the week? Well, as you're pondering those, like I said in yesterday's chat, I'm going to be really try to be more intentional next week on Monday in those announcements for the schedule for the week, what days and times we're going to be doing what, and I'm just going to have all of those links posted there for you right off the top of the bat. Then that way you can kind of plan accordingly. I think so far it's been working for me to upload these to YouTube and post those. So I think I'm going to continue with that. Did you decide if we were going to combine chapters 15 and 16 into next week? If so, there'll be 2 FRQs next Friday. Yes. I think just for what I'm hearing, from College Board, we'll know more about what the test will look like after April 3rd. So let's combine 15 and 16. But I would say right now, if that seems like more than you can bite off in a week's time, that's totally fine. Come to it at your own time. Come back and look at the videos. If you need to spend your time on something else, totally fine, guys. You've got to balance it for what works best for you. Curtis, do you think the argumentative essay will be on the AP test? Curtis, that's a great question. I don't know, buddy. They're saying 45 minutes FRQ at home. I think if they're just doing one essay, they might just do the argumentative, or there might be two. I have no clue whatsoever until they announce on Friday what that structure is going to look like. Morgan, keep doing it, dude. Keep, one day at a time, chunking those things out. Rowan, will we have opportunities to raise our grade? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to say if we're told to give grades based on work done through remote learning, yeah, absolutely, the grades would go up. If they end up coming back and saying no, your grades are frozen as of February or March 13th, then it is what it is. I have no idea. Nobody knows what it's going to look like at this year. So if we turn those in late, they'll still be open and won't lose points. Correct. Everything is open indefinitely. The due dates are a suggestion at this point, but I figure just to kind of keep ourselves working, we'll just combine those two chapters, 15, 16 next week. I'll post the videos. If you get to them, great. If you don't, I'll get to them when you get to them. And then we can kind of turn our attention that first full week of April, starting to look at a plan for reviewing. I'm going to go out on a limb and say these at-home tests probably won't be available until May. I was thinking, like, would there be an opportunity in April? I could be wrong, but I took a survey this morning on College Board for teachers, and they were saying, like, what weeks would you want to do it? Which tells me they don't have a plan yet. But those were in May and June, and my vote was earlier the better. So we'll know more for sure on April 3rd. What will our assignments look like when we're reviewing? More than likely, it would do like what I'm starting to just brainstorm. Don't hold me to this. Like I said, week to week, is a short review, video review at the beginning of the week with some tasks that are focused on a particular unit, and then follow up on at the end of the week. So it would be a little bit more like bookends of start together, end together, but focused on a particular unit. No one has a plan. Yeah, I think everybody's waiting to hear from what the next person is trying to say. So at this point, guys, like I said, I want to keep it week to week. Let's just plan. We're looking ahead to 15 and 16 next week. Kind of go from there. The guided reading questions, I'll move all of those onto campus or on Canvas. And I think the request I got from some folks yesterday was to make sure we put it on the calendar. I will do my best to have those on there as well. How do you recommend we study for the SAT AP test since all of our assignments are online? I can't speak to the AP test because I don't know what they're asking you for, but once we do know, I can give you a better plan. I think the SATs, if the SAT planning, I think Khan Academy is probably the best spot to do it right now because it can tell you, what skills you're strong in, what skills you're not, and follow those tasks. So I wouldn't reinvent the wheel that Khan already has built for the SAT. Ryan, if I get a 5 on the test, will you get a tattoo of Karen? Ryan, at this point, I feel pretty confident that I could say yes on that one, but who knows? Who knows what the FRQs and what the AP test will eventually look like? All right, any other questions for the general good of the order here before we kind of shut things down? So again, if you want to go back and review your submission for the FRQ, please do so. I'll definitely go through here in the next week, read those, score them according to the rubric. But yeah, anything for the good of the order, any questions that we have? Miss you too, guys, terribly. I was on a Zoom today with some teachers early this morning, and missing people's faces. A lot of things we took for granted, being able to kind of see each other in person. Landon says, if school goes out for the year, is the grade? We don't know, Landon. I have no idea what that will look like for final grades, and I'll let you know when I do know. Camille, do you think it will be harder to get a 5 since a lot of people might cheat? They're saying that I think what was going to end up happening is you're going to get a pool of FRQ questions, and you might just get one at random, and it's timed, and you got to do it in that certain amount of time. And I think they have to take into account that some people are going to not be honest about it. But I have no idea about scoring either. I have no idea. Rachel, should we still do the one pagers? Yeah, do the one pagers. keep up on that. There'll be a way, regardless of whether we're meeting in person or online, for you guys to submit that. That will definitely be a grade. Well, yeah, sure they're going to do. Yes, 100%. All AP tests are online this year. Even if we, for some reason, if let's say they lift the stay at home and we're back in school sometime in late April, early May, all the tests would still be online. That they've just made that as a blanket for this year. AP tests are online. There'll be 2 test dates that you can do it at home, or if we're at school, we just do it online. All right, guys. Any last minute questions for the good of the order? Well, keep hanging in there, guys. Keep strong. Be safe. This isn't anyone's first, second, or 1 millionth choice of what we could be doing, but adopting that core value of being adaptive and responsive. You guys have been amazing as far as how adaptive, how flexible you have been, how much you guys are caring about your work. It just is a testament to who you guys are, not just as students, but as people. So really, guys, keep your chin up. Keep doing what you're doing. If you have questions, please reach out. Let me know. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands for 20 seconds, and look for an announcement pushed out to me sometime Monday morning with our schedule for next week. Okay. All right. Well, as I'm going to end the recording, guys, again, be safe, be well, and I'll talk to you on Monday.